have to coach that agent on how to do this. Like, this is outside the box for them. This isn't traditional real estate and all these things like Jamil's giving these like dialogues and things. It's, you have to help that agent understand how to go back to the seller, why we do what we do, why we're at the price we're at. Like, I call it coaching agents all the time. Like, you're coaching the agent on how to do this business. And if you get good at that, then you'll have that agent align with you. You'll be on the same page. And that's only when they're gonna go back to the seller and get that seller on board. If that agent is not aligned with you, they're gonna bring the wrong energy. They're not gonna say it the right way. They may not even go do it. Welcome back, guys, to video 2 in this How to Wholesale with Agents Masterclass.
Yeah.
Jamil?
What's up?
Dude, let's do this again. This is a good one. This is a big one.
Yes, sir.
If you guys missed the first one, we talked all about why you should be doing the agent model if you're in wholesale real estate. And hopefully that got you inspired, got you excited. Hopefully you're like, man, I can't wait to really learn this, because it really is a phenomenal strategy to do this business well. And this one, I think, might be the most important video that we do in the entire series, because it's going back to that big picture of why this is so powerful, and it's about those relationships.
Correct.
And not only are we going to talk about those relationships, we're going to kind of get down in the weeds a little bit with that and talk about how do we do that? Because it's one thing to say, create a relationship. It's another thing to teach people and show people how you do that, because that you're not the only one that agent's talking to.
No.
So what's making you special? Like, how are you standing out? What do you do to be at the top of their list of people to call and people that they want to work with? Agents are no different than us or anybody in business. People want to work with people that they know, like, and trust.
Right.
And so I think one of the key things for me, Jamil, and I know for you as well, that allows me to do so well is I just do such a good job at aligning with them, being their friend, helping them see how this relationship with me is beneficial to them, helping them see that there's going to be money here, there's going to be connection here, there's going to be a lot of benefit to this relationship. And so how do we do that? Some people naturally do that really well. Other people need some help with that.
Right.
And when you learn how to do it, it's a game changer.
It is. And a lot of it has to do with, understanding the relationship between just communication, right? Mirroring, and really understanding and matching somebody's energy. One of the things that I notice about people who get this, just get started in this business, especially when they're first on the phones, is that they're just wanting to get the words out, right? They want to say the thing that they think they need to say without really listening to the tone, understanding the energy of the conversation, right? And that is not going to take you anywhere, right? Have you ever been on a phone with somebody where you really wanted to get off the phone? And you started talking really fast, and you were answering the questions really fast. You're like, okay, yep,
okay,
yep,
got it.
And then they're like, so what are you going to do this weekend? And you think to yourself, how do you not
read this?
Yes,
how are you not
what
reading
is wrong with you? I'm busy. I don't want to talk anymore. Get off the phone. And a lot of times what ends up happening is that we want to just say the thing we want to say, and it really doesn't matter to us what the other person is thinking or absorbing or how they feel about what we're saying, because that's just not how we've been taught how to communicate in today's society, right? It's one way. We talk way more than we listen, and we're not picking up those nonverbal cues, which essentially give us like the emotional intelligence on what's happening in the situation.
Yeah. I'll give you a quick example, Jamil. Recently, I texted this agent, and this was a listed property, right? I text this agent. I'm like, hey, I see you're the listing agent on 123 Main Street. I'm an investor, would like to make a cash offer. Can I call you? And the agent replies back, what's your offer? Okay.
Yeah.
That guy's not going to shoot the shit with me about the weather.
Not a chance.
If I call him up and I'm like, hey, what's going on? How's it going? And I instantly know, okay, this guy is right to the point. He's probably got a lot of people contacting him. He's going to be short. How do I now navigate this conversation? Like, those are the things you're talking about where you got to, and that was a text. Like, I could read instantly where this guy's at.
Right. You knew the tone. There wasn't any niceties. There was no rapport building. There wasn't anything. It was, what's the number? Yeah. That's it. That's all I'm interested in. And when you know that, you now have the information in which to behave, right?
Now, most people would freak out and they'd be like, oh my gosh, this guy's a jerk. I don't know how to, and for me, I'm like, okay, now I know where he's at.
Right.
Now I'm going to treat this a little different than I would.
You match the energy.
Yeah. Match the energy, match the tonality.
Match the tonality. You mirror what they're doing, right? And it's going to be different, guys, for agent outreach, which is the shotgun approach, as Jerry had said, where we're just doing cold outreach to real estate agents. There's not really a listing that we're calling on. And then there's going to be the sniper approach, which is actually going on to the MLS and finding listed properties that could be potential opportunities. And how you even approach those conversations are going to be entirely different, because in one of those instances, you're just popping out of nowhere, introducing yourself, finding out if somebody has some business for you or if they'll do business with you in the future. And you're beginning a new relationship. It's kind of like online dating. You're just sending out those messages and putting the feelers out of like, hey, I'm a nice person. Do you want to maybe have a cup of coffee? Whereas when you're going the other route, we're on a listed property, and that we have a specific thing that's happening, right?
We have a reason to talk right now.
We have a reason to talk, right? And that's going to be an entirely different conversation. The tonality is going to be different. The cadence is going to be different. As you could see, even Jerry's agent that he texted that one time was just right to the point. We know why we're talking. We know the property we're talking about. What's the number?
Yeah.
So it's important to know the difference.
So there's that tonality. And this is where, guys, I have a couple recommendations around this. Watch pros do it, because you'll see how they're doing it, and that'll really help you. I had no idea how impactful it would be, Jamil, for me just to put content out where I'm just talking like an hour of me calling and talking to agents. People are like, oh my gosh, I see now the way that you change your voice with this agent. You're more direct with that one. You're more friendly with it. Like, so that's helpful. The other recommendation I have is video yourself when you do your calls, and then go back and watch your calls. You will learn so much about how you're doing when you watch yourself do it, right? So that's one way that's helpful. Any other ideas? What else is helpful to learn how to do tonality and mirroring? Because that's a skill set that takes a little bit of practice.
Yeah, it absolutely does. But asking the right questions.
Questions.
Right? And not asking, just the dumb questions, but really getting to the nitty-gritty of it and knowing when to ask what questions.
That's
right?
it.
Because you get, and I've seen people really butcher this, where there is a property that's listed on the market and they're starting to develop, start a conversation with the agent, and then they'll get to the motivation of the seller too quickly, right?
Yeah.
And remember that this agent is representing that seller, and they're going to be a little bit guarded on what they're going to tell you right out the gate, because they still don't know what your intentions are, and they still don't know what you plan to do, or if you're a serious or not buyer. And so when you start a conversation with, hi, I'm calling about this listing, looks like this could be a good house for me, but it's been listed for 90 days. What do you think your seller's bottom line is? That's not how you do it, right? You don't go right to that, because you're skipping the formalities, you're skipping the foreplay, and you're getting right to it.
Yeah. I did some high-level sales training years ago, Jamil, and the biggest thing I learned was sales is about asking the right questions at the right time with the right tone. Those three things: right questions, right time, right tone. So when you learn how to kind of bring that all together, you'll find your effectiveness go up tremendously with agents.
Absolutely. There's a real interesting thing about the questions and the tone, and days on market and when a listing is actually put up is super important, right? What's your experience with this, Jerry, when a house is just freshly listed on the MLS? Because, guys, we're going to get into the weeds here, because there's differences even between listed properties, right? There is a property that's in original condition or needing a lot of work that's well priced, that just gets listed, that needs to be treated differently than a property that's in original condition or needing work that's not well priced, that's been sitting on the market for 90 or 110 days or whatever. And that conversation is going to be very different. Maybe same house, but different conversation, right? Then you've got those properties that are priced well, and they're also sitting on the market for a tremendous amount of time. And the questions that are associated with each of those are way different.
Yeah, I think to answer that question, phenomenal question. I think to answer that question, just like we have to mirror and look at the tonality of a conversation with an agent, you have to do the exact same thing with a listing. A listing has its own tonality to it.
And its story.
It's got its own story. How disrepaired is it? How long has it been sitting? What's the price? Is it priced? Because the pricing is it priced for an investor or is it priced for a retail buyer?
Correct.
Are they marketing this? Is the messaging? Is it the description? who are they looking for? Now, if you're good at the conversation with the agent, you can uncover that if you don't know. But I instantly know when I look at a listing who they're trying to find.
Right.
Are they trying to find a retail or are they trying to find an investor? It doesn't mean I won't talk to them if they're looking for a retail buyer. I just know going into that conversation, I'm going to treat it much differently. Exactly. I'm not going to be focusing on my offer. I'm going to be focusing on the relationship.
Correct.
Whereas if it's priced maybe really aggressively, like they got it priced really, really good, and they're like, motivated seller looking for a cash offer. Okay, exactly. Now I'm going to go into that conversation much differently than the other one where it's a retail type of scenario, right?
And your canned approaches on how you negotiate differ as well. For instance, a house that's well priced that just got listed on the MLS and needs a lot of work, that right there is going to be very competitive.
Yeah.
You're going to have people sending in offers the entire first week of that. Now, I've talked to some investors who say, I don't ever believe in offering full price, and so I'm going to, go in 20K under list price. Well,
as a blanket rule.
As a blanket rule. That rule is not going to work in a situation like this because at the end of the day, this was a well-priced home. Yeah. It's been on the market for 10 hours, and they've already had their phone ringing off the hook. You're going to need to be aggressive in that kind of situation. Yeah. That might not be the property for a brand new wholesaler. If you're a brand new wholesaler and you're not willing to go non-refundable on your earnest money, if you aren't ready to waive inspection period, that might not be an opportunity for you. You might want to actually save your conversation for a house that's sitting on the market 120 days.
I had one time, Jamil, where I had my searches saved, right, and in my key market. This was in Metro Detroit, and so I get this like email notification, bing, new listing. And I look at it, and I know my market so well that I'm like, wow.
That's a deal.
That's a deal. So I'm like, I'm going to call this agent. But I was like in the middle of doing something. I'm like, I'm going to finish up what I'm doing. And I finished up what I was doing in like a minute or 2 minutes. And then I call, doesn't answer. I'm like, oh, crap. Call, doesn't answer. Call, doesn't answer. And I know what's going on. This
phone's blowing up.
Oh, yeah. So finally she gets back. She's like, I'm really sorry I haven't gotten back to you. It's been nuts around here. And this was literally like 15 minutes when she got back to me. And I'm like, yeah, tell me what's happening. And she's like, it's already gone. Like, it's gone.
And if you had just called right that moment.
Maybe I would have got in. Right. Because somebody got in there first and it was probably a full price or over asking. And I've done amazing wholesale deals where I was contracted over asking price and then wholesaled it for an awesome fee. So that's what you said is so true. Every listing is going to have its own economy, and you've got to know how to recognize it. A lot of what you teach really quite a bit, and I try to as well, is comping, knowing how to understand value. Like these are some key things here, but I love that we're talking about the messaging of a listing and the differences between listings or even not listings, right?
Correct.
Just agents in general.
Absolutely. And the story that it tells, right? For instance, days on market. And I love using the analogy with real estate agents that they can understand. Days on market or high days on market for me is parallel to a salvage title on a car. If you've got a high day on market count on your property, and let's just say it's 120 days sitting there, well, there's going to definitely be some ideas that potential buyers are going to have about that property. They're going to think, well, something might be wrong with this house, or nobody wants this house, or if nobody wants it, why would I want it? And so these are the types of messaging that the story of this listing is actually telling you, right? And so you have to understand that even your potential buyers are going to get that same story. Or let's just take another example. Say a house is listed on the market, it's been there for 120 days, and there's been no price reductions. What does that tell you about your seller?
That's communicating something.
It's communicating to you that the seller here is just not open to negotiating. They are not willing to bend on price whatsoever. And these are things that you can actually discern from the listing before you ever even have to call the agent.
And it gives you the talking points, right? So like, I call it internally, this isn't a thing or anything, but I call a property like that tagged. Oh, that's a tagged property, meaning something's going on, it's long days on market, and tag meaning the market's looking at this going, something's going on there, I'm not interested, right?
Correct.
And so I called this one agent and I said, hey, So it looks like this has fallen in and out of contract a few times, and it, it's been pending, active, like 3 or 4 times. Long days on market, pending, active. So clearly people were contracting it and then backing out. So knowing how to see that, I said, hey, so it looks like this has fallen in and out of contract a few times. What's going on?
Yeah. Great question.
Like just a great question. And, it wasn't like right out of the gate, but it was a question. It was a very good question with the right time, the right tonality. And so agents intuitively or maybe instinctively, unknowingly, they know when they're communicating with someone who knows what they're doing.
Correct.
Or at least they perceive that they know what they're doing. And that's asking those right questions. It's understanding, what am I looking at? What's going on here? What can I decipher from this listing, from the price, from the description, from the history, days on market? And then how do I take this information and formulate good questions to have good conversations that are going to lead you to hopefully an offer or a relationship, right?
Yep.
And so those are some really important things. I think days on market tells one of the most important stories of all. Price, descriptions. What about pictures?
Oh my God.
Pictures.
Oh, dude.
Like no pictures.
Yeah, no pictures or bad pictures.
No pictures tells a lot.
It does.
It tells a story.
It does, because what would you say no pictures on a listing would signal to you?
Oh my gosh, they don't want you to see what's inside because it's that bad.
Right. Or what about when you've got really blurry, terrible,
upside
out of
down,
focus, upside down, or just pictures of irrelevant things like, here's a toilet, here's a book, that's a bike. I mean, I've seen that before. In fact, I do a fun post on my Instagram on Thursdays called Trash Job Thursday.
Yeah,
where I call out an agent for doing a trash job for their client by posting pictures of a property that are totally irrelevant and out of focus, right? But that tells you not something even about the property or the seller,
but
that tells you
agent.
Something about the agent. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to come into these conversations with the right frame of mind, and you should be painting a picture about your seller. Now write this down. When you look at a listing, what can you discern from the listing before you even make the phone call? What kind of seller do you have? What kind of agent do you have? Are they conscientious? Are they detail-oriented? Are they descriptive? What kind of seller do you have? Do you have a seller who's motivated? Do you have a seller that's unmotivated? Has price fluctuated? Is it going up and down? Has the property gone in and out of contract? The property itself will tell you a story based off how many times it's been in and out of contract. And so you can formulate all of these different narratives that when you put them all together, you are now armed with more information than the agent would ever expect you to be armed with walking into that conversation. And that makes you one powerful person.
Yeah, I love that. That's really great. I've got a couple of maybe standard ones, Jamil. Maybe tell me what you think about these. These fit really well all the time. And this is specifically for listed stuff, right? So a really great question, if you don't know, like, okay, where do I start, would be, hey, can you tell me what's going on with the property? Or can you tell me what's going on with the seller on this property? Just an easy question, great question, starts a conversation. Now you should know something, right? Because if you take 2 minutes and look at it, you'll know some things, right? But ask, hey, I'm an investor. Can you tell me what's going on here? That's a great question. Another question I like to ask agents is, well, what do you think the value is? And I'll even say, what do you think? I say back end value. I say, what do you think the back end value is on this property? I'm looking at this as a possible flip. What do you think the back end value is? I never say ARV.
Right.
After repair value, we use that term.
Correct.
But
that's
agents,
inside baseball.
Yeah. But agents don't know what that means. I see people say it. I'm
right.
like,
or I'll get even more descriptive. Like, what do you think this house would sell for if I do a renovation?
That's it. Yep.
Right. And then they're like, oh yeah, okay, I got it.
Yep.
Right.
Or if you say, sometimes I'll ask instead of that question first, I'll say, man, I'm thinking about fixing this up to flip it. What do you think it would need in work? What would you do to this?
How much do you think it would cost?
And then how much do you think it would cost? These are great questions, right? How much do you think it would cost to fix this house up? Some agents are going to say, well, I don't know. It depends what you do. Some are going to say, man, I know this inside and out. It's going to be $25,000. You'll get all kinds. It's not the answer.
Right.
You're creating a connection. Whenever you ask somebody what they think, they feel important. They feel valued.
Yep.
They're going to open up. They're going to let their guard down. They're going to like you more.
Yep.
That's why we ask the questions. I mean, we want to gather information. But it's more about gathering information. It's creating a connection.
It is. And then when you create the connection, as Jerry just said, you can actually get them to align with you.
Yes.
One of my favorite things to ask an agent is, what do you think I need to pick this property up for it to be a viable flip for me?
Yeah.
Now I'm asking them to tell me what I need to buy the house for. And their brains are like, well, now they're thinking about it from my perspective, from my point of view.
Exactly.
And it's a completely different conversation.
I have a philosophy, Jamil, that you will not get an agent to go to bat for you because they're the gatekeeper, right? You guys, you never talk to the seller on market. You're talking to the agent. Correct. You never talk to the seller. So how do you get the agent aligned with you so that they can go back and sell it to the seller?
Right.
If the agent doesn't agree with you about your number, about what you're doing, they are not going to go sell it to the seller. So you have to get that agent on your side, at least with why you're at where you're at, like now, your price.
What are some of the ways that you get agents on your side? I know we both have some really great strategies. One of yours being the double dip. Mm-hmm. Explain the double dip to us and how that gets an agent to be in alignment with you.
It's 100% strictly appealing to their greed, or maybe not even greed, but just money.
Yep.
And what you're doing there is you're offering the buyer side representation to that listing agent who has the listing with the seller. Because typically in traditional real estate, you have an agent represents the seller, an agent represents the buyer. They're two separate parties, and they each get paid a commission. And in the past, it was the seller paid both commissions, right?
Correct.
I get a lot of people that don't understand how agency works. Just because the buyer's agent represents a buyer doesn't necessarily mean that that's who pays them. Now that's all changing.
It is.
It's all changing. It's all changing. So soon it will be up for grabs, right? But traditionally, the seller pays, let's say, 6%, 3 to the listing agent, 3 to the buyer's agent, or 2.5. And so there's this like bucket of commission available. And what I like to do is I tell that listing agent, hey, I'm unrepresented. I don't have buyer representation in this situation.
Meaning he's not working with an agent.
I'm not working with my own agent.
And so that signals to the agent, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe you could be my client.
Yeah. And I'll say, are you able to represent me on the other side? Are you able to represent both sides? It's technically called dual agency. Correct. Where one agent represents both. Some states allow it, some don't. There's
Most
workarounds.
States allow it.
Yeah.
Most states allow dual agency. Like Texas and
Florida.
And Florida, there's some rules around it. But I've got workarounds for that.
Me too. Yeah,
right?
There's workarounds which we can get to. But the point here is you're trying to create, the way I like to describe it, Jamil, is you have to create a competitive advantage.
Yes.
If an agent gets 10 offers and 9 of them are with buyer's agents and 1 you're double dipping, which one do you think that listing agent is going to promote more?
Especially if they're very similar in terms of price and terms and whatnot.
Might they go to bat for you? Might they help you with some of your, contract terms?
Because they're going to get paid twice the commission on it, right? Like how many times have you gotten paid twice for the same job and not enjoyed it?
Yeah, right.
Right?
Because when you double dip, you're essentially doubling their commission.
Correct.
So, and I find that this is very motivating for a lot. Now, not all agents. Some are like, I don't really care about that. Some will say, like what maybe you'll explain this, is they'll waive that side and let the seller net more.
Right.
Because now they're not paying as much.
Exactly. So I'll in that instance, what I'll say to the agent is, hey, look, I'm going to come in up unrepresented. And I know, depending on how you want to put this out, I'm okay to represent myself, in which case you can actually just give that buyer side agency commission back to the seller so they'll net more. Or
meaning they're only paying the listing side, not the buyer side, so it saves them money.
Correct. Now, a really ethical agent, a really, really, really ethical agent will take that option because they'll say, wait, my job as a fiduciary to my seller is to do the best for my seller that I can. And if the best for my seller that I can get them is to save this additional 3%, that's me being their fiduciary, and they might just take that. But 9 out of 10 times, what I'll also put out there is, or you could represent me and take both sides of the commission. I'm going to leave that decision up to you.
And that's the point. Guys, just offer it and let them decide what works for them. Right? Just offer it. That's kind of what I say. And if you take like Florida and Texas, which they do not allow technical dual agency, we do the double dip like crazy every day because I'm in 2 markets in Florida actively. We do it all the time. But it's not dual agency. What they do is they do what's called a transaction broker, which basically means they don't represent either party. Now, why does that work? Well, think about it. These are distressed properties. So what the agent does is they go back to the seller and they say, hey, you know how we have a listing agreement where I'm representing you? I've got a buyer over here and I think this is an offer you might want to consider. But for this to work, I just need to be neutral now, but I'll bring you guys together. We'll get the deal done. I'll still help get the deal done. And that's how they position it. And the seller's like, I don't really care.
Right.
I want a deal done.
Yeah.
I want to sell it.
Correct.
So so they just have to get the seller on board with switching that agreement. And then here we are back to them getting both commissions.
Right.
So it works really well. The point is, I don't say, hey, why don't you switch it? Why don't you I don't say any of that. I just say, here it is. It's up for grabs. However you want to set this up is up to you. If you want to do what Jamil said and just give them money back by not doing that commission, you want to take both of it, you want to, whatever you want to do. I'm just letting you know that I want a relationship with you. I want you to think of me as someone that you can maybe make more money with or ongoing money with. Like, it goes back to that conversation.
Absolutely.
That's the conversation I want to have.
Yes. And the other part is that even if the seller or the listing agent is maybe not wanting to do dual representation or doesn't want you to be unrepresented, so they have a conundrum about that. Another great way to still get them on board is to say to them, is there anybody in your office, a relative or a friend or a family member that you could refer me to help me get this offer to you? Now you've actually got somebody that they care about in the deal as well. And quite often, I mean, for me, especially with the people that I love, my friends, I care about them as much as I care about myself, right? And so if I know that, hey, I can do a deal right now, but I'm going to make money and Jerry's going to make money, well, cool. I'd way rather do the deal where we both get to benefit than just one where it's just me.
Yeah, you'll have this happen, guys, where let's say it is in Texas and Florida, because we do see this. It's technically called designated agency, is when the same agent in the same office or same brokerage represents the buyer as the agent that represents the listing agent. So both agents are in the same office. Now, the only way that you can do referral fees on commission is between agents.
Correct.
You cannot get a referral. You cannot receive a referral from an agent if you're not licensed.
Correct.
If you're licensed, you can. So what they'll do is they'll say, okay, Jamil's my buddy in the office. He's an agent. I'm an agent. You're an investor. Hey, Jamil, can you do the write-up on this one? Can you be the buyer on this one and kick me back half of your 3%?
Right. That person's getting free money just to write up a contract.
So now I make 4, you make 2, or you make 1.5, I make 3.5, 4.5. Like, that'll go on, right? So,
all the time.
So that's designated agency, same office. So anyway, the point here, guys, is like, don't get hung up on that. So many people I coach with on market, they're all hung up on that part. That's not the part to get hung up on.
No.
So Jamil, how do you say the relationship part? How do you say we're going to make money together for the next 20 years? Like, what is that part of the conversation? Because that's the main point of the conversation.
Right.
How do you like to say that?
Well, there's a couple of ways, right? And some of them will actually kind of paint you into a corner, so you have to be careful about it. And then there's other ways where you can incentivize and kind of dangle a carrot, but dangle the carrot in terms of a future opportunity. And so here's how I'm going to break it down. A lot of times when an agent works with an investor, and if you're fixing and flipping, for instance, you fix and flip, I fix and flip, I also wholesale. And so when an agent is selling me or bringing me an opportunity, they might want to ask if I will flip the property and then list the property with them once I flip it. Now, of course, as somebody who wholesales, I may not fix and flip this property. I might just assign it, in which case I'm not going to be able to give you the listing. But I don't want you to not do the deal with me beforehand because you're feeling weird or bad that you might not get the future listing from me. And so the way that I position that is, I'm not sure what my exit strategy is going to be on this, but here's what I can promise you. Regardless of what I do, if I move forward with this deal, whether I take this property down and fix and flip it and list it with you, or if I find another way to make money from it, I'll make sure that I do a shore up with you, which is where you'll make money on the back end of my deal. So you'll get paid the commission, and then once I figure out what I'm going to do with the property, I'll give you a portion of the profits from that as well. And their minds explode in that, because to them, they're like, holy, if I dual represent you on this, I get the buyer side, I get the seller side, and I might be able to get paid a third time from you.
I call this the triple dip.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, so how would that look like with an assignment?
So, for instance, Monique Walker, the way that her and I operate is I share 50% of my assignment fees with her. And how she presents herself to her sellers is really interesting. Her number one list are expired listings. And so she will go get a list of expired listings, and she, from the hours of 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every morning, calls the expired list.
Cold calls them.
Cold calls them. And introduces herself. Hi, it's Monique Walker. I noticed that your property just expired with another agent. I'm not calling to ask you for a listing. I'm calling you to actually bring you an offer. Are you still wanting to sell this house? Now, all of a sudden, the seller's ears perk up because they, for the last 6 months, haven't seen an offer. That or one that made any sense to them. And so they, of course, want to sell the deal, but they can't because they haven't been able to, right? And so when an agent calls them with a potential buyer, they're really excited. What she then says to even incentivize them more is, oh, and by the way, you don't have to pay me a commission. My buyer pays me.
Oh, my gosh.
And so now the seller is like, hold on a second. Is this Santa Claus? Like, what are you saying to me right now? Now, just to be above board, my buyer is an investor, and so has a specific idea on what he's going to want to do with this, which is he's going to want to make money on this in some way. And so, just so you're aware, he's going to give you an investor offer, but it'll be a net offer. It'll be net to you. So whatever that offer number is, he'll pay the closing costs. He'll pay my commission. Are you interested in seeing what that number is?
That's powerful.
It is.
I don't do that
powerful
strategy much, Jamil. That's a very unique strategy that you do really, really well. Guys, if you follow my training, that's a unique strategy I don't talk a whole lot about. I love that, Jamil.
Oh, and now I've got the agent cold calling for me.
Yeah.
And I don't got to pay her $20 an hour. She just gets the list. I don't buy her data. I don't buy her list. She calls the list. She creates the opportunity for me. And then every morning, she texts me an address. She probably texts me, anywhere between 7 to 10 addresses every single day. I respond with what my buy number is, and then she just goes back and calls them back later in the afternoon.
And it's a true JV. It's a 50-50.
50-50 JV. So she is incentivized the same way I am, right? So she knows that we need to get this as at the best price possible, and because she's not representing the seller, she's representing the buyer. Because she says, you're not going to pay me my commission. My buyer pays me the commission. I represent my buyer. I'm calling on behalf of them. So now her fiduciary duty is to me, and my needs are to get this property at the best price possible.
And do you ever take it all the way through, like write the contract, open escrow, the whole thing? Yeah, that's fantastic.
So she'll go, if they agree on number, she'll send them the contract, and she'll do what's called an unrepresented seller agreement with them. So now the seller is acting on their own behalf. The seller looks at the contract. If they like the terms and the number, they'll sign it. And then once I assign the deal, what Monique and I do is I take the total amount of the assignment fee, and then I split that in half, and I pay it to her through escrow as a commission. So the title company takes the assignment fee, or takes her commission right out of my assignment fee. And her broker is on board with it. Yeah. She's with the most common brokerage in the entire world, Remax, right?
Yeah.
And if you ask agents who say, "Oh, we're not allowed to wholesale," it's not true. Remax is one of the most strict brokerages that exist, and the brokers all the way up the chain have looked at the way that we do this business, and they have absolutely no problem with it.
Because you're doing it all the right way. You got the right paperwork. Everything's being done on the up and up.
Now, last thing, the best thing about this is that if we get this property at a good price, well, it's off market now because it's an expired listing. And so when I send it out to my buyers, I can maximize my profits. But think about it like this, right? Say a house is $100,000. Monique's 3% commission on that would have been $3,000. Monique and I average about $25,000 per deal right now.
And gross assignment.
Okay. Right? So she's going to make 12 and a half.
Four times
as much on the same house.
Working with you.
By working with me.
Yeah.
So this becomes a very powerful relationship for her. And it makes her want to put all her time and effort and energy behind finding opportunities for me. Not only does she do that for herself, but Monique manages a huge team of other agents who she trains to do the same thing for me as well.
Jamil, this is like super important if you're a wholesaler watching this, but man, imagine if what you just taught there could be taught to agents.
I know.
Like, how do we teach agents how to work with wholesalers like this.
Like we said in the beginning,
4 times as much money.
4 times as much money. And
you're happy to do it.
Happy to do it. And if you're a real estate agent watching this right now, your commissions are being compressed. They are under fire right now. Not knowing this strategy is irresponsible.
Really, I mean,
irresponsible.
What it comes down to is really just like what Monique's doing is she's figured out how to bring value. She's bringing value, and that's the problem with commission reform right now with agents, is everybody's telling a buyer's agent,
you're not worthy.
There's no value in what you do, and if a buyer's agent cannot show value, it's true. Like anybody can write a contract, the title company can write the contract, right? Like that's not the valuable part. So what Monique's done is she's bringing tremendous value and she's getting compensated for that value.
Correct.
You get paid in direct proportion to the value you bring to the marketplace.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And that's what's happening here. So I think that's doubly important for agents. I hope there are agents watching this with their mind blown going, how do I find wholesalers right now that I can work with?
Well, you can come to the special thing that Jerry and I are doing and connect with them. And in all honesty, Jerry and I, we do a show every Monday on our YouTube channel. It's called Wholesale Hotline. And 700, 800, sometimes even 1,000 live viewers are on that podcast every single Monday. It's Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific. I would say that if you're a real estate agent right now and you're struggling, you're not really figured out how to get your commissions where they need to be. Say you're the average agent making $60,000 a year. By working with investors, you can take that from your annual to your monthly salary. I'm not kidding you. Like $60,000 a month is very doable.
You need to start making money like a wholesaler makes money.
Correct.
Right? I mean, if you're a good wholesaler, you're making good money. Agents should be making the same type of money.
100% agree
Just
with that.
you got to realign to bring value to the marketplace.
Yes, sir.
And that's the best way to do it.
So we were just talking about on-market opportunities, expired listings. Let's talk about the shotgun approach. Because the shotgun approach, that's a cold outreach to an agent, right? There's no listing on the market that you're calling on. You don't really know who they are. Maybe you can do some research on them, look at their Zillow reviews or whatnot, but this is just going to be a cold outreach to an agent. Do you do a lot of that? And what's your strategy?
This is really interesting. I used to greatly undervalue the shotgun or the outreach model. And I've since completely changed that position, mostly from students who I've seen do tremendously well with the outreach model. And the reason why is it's just a lot of work and it takes consistent work. But like I have some students right now, Jamil, where they are cold outreaching like 10 agents a day, trying to find new agents, and then another 10 follow up with existing agents. And they're really good about tracking their database. And they do a lot of deals directly because of that outreach. And a lot of it is off market. Most of it's off market because now what they're doing is they're connecting with agents, and then the agents are remembering that wholesaler. And then when they're sitting down on a listing appointment, they're going, we're not even going to take this to market. I got a buyer for you right now. Would you entertain a cash offer? And the whole thing happens without it even touching the market.
Right.
And I just never really valued that until the last couple of years where I've seen it work really, really well.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think probably why you didn't enjoy it was when you've tried it in the past, maybe it was a hard time imparting to the agent what specifically you were looking for. Because I can tell you from having done this, I've probably made upwards of 10, 15, 20,000 calls like that. And they don't always get the assignment, right? I'll ask an agent if they've got an opportunity for me, and they'll set me up on an email drip. Yeah. Right, where they're just sending me already listed properties.
Yeah, other people's listings.
Or they'll send me wholesaler deals. They're on wholesale buyers lists as well, and they'll start sending me other wholesalers deals, which I don't necessarily want because I can't get an inspection period, non-refundable EMD, all the reasons why it's like, it might not be the opportunity for me. And so you've really got to make sure that you're really hitting the nail on the head with your messaging on how you do that first opener, right? I'll share with you what my opener is. So let's just say you're a real estate agent. Let's say, I call you up. Hey, is this Jerry Norton?
Yeah.
Jerry, hi. Not going to take a lot of your time up, but I'm looking for a house right now that I can fix up. I need something in original condition or something super beat up. You have anything like that coming to the market that I can look at before you put it on the MLS?
Well, yeah, actually, I'm meeting with a seller for the second time about a property that would fit that perfectly.
So here's how I like to play this, Jerry. I don't know if you know the condition of the house. But one thing that I know agents really love to do when their houses or their potential listings are distressed is they want to be able to come in with a good number, right? Offer pad, open door. They're able to deliver to sellers a quick buy number, and I can do the same thing for you. If you want, when you're there, if you could send me a couple of quick pictures or just give me a general idea of condition and send me the address, I will shoot you back what my buy number will be. And that way you're armed with that in the listing appointment with your seller. So depending on whatever option you're going to give them, you'll have a cash number available for them right out the gate.
That's awesome.
And
that's great.
It nails, right? Because now I've just elevated the agent to an iBuyer.
Yeah. Do you reiterate as is? I won't do any repairs. They don't even have to trash it out.
Yeah,
none of that.
so
the
agent will ask some of these questions, and I try to not be as heavy-handed right out the gate as possible.
Okay.
In fact, I don't right out the gate offer to pay all closing costs. I don't write out because the thing is that the more I offer, the more too good to be true it feels like to the agent.
And it's a lot for them to remember.
Absolutely.
And everything. Yeah.
So I want to keep my original outreach or my original opener to be bare bones. And I remember this too. As an investor, they are putting their mind into you. So they think, well, if I'm an investor, why would I offer to pay closing costs, all these things? What am I missing here?
Yeah. Something's off.
Something's off about how excited and how eager this person is. And so I still need to maintain the integrity of I'm an investor and I need to keep every dime I can keep attitude, but still fair, and I still want win-win situations.
And it allows you to still have some negotiating tools.
That's just it. Because when it's needed,
yeah,
I can now say, you know what, I want to be more competitive. I understand your seller situation. Now that you've told me the story of what's going on with the seller, maybe they're ill, maybe they got to move, whatever the circumstance is. Look, people don't get into situations where they sell a hoarder home because life's been going well.
Yeah.
It's the facts, right?
Yeah.
Things aren't going well. And when you get behind those stories, what you find is that it's a human being. It's a human being with a soul that is having a hard time. And you still want to, as a child of God, you still want to do your best in that circumstance. You still want to be helpful. You still want to make sure that you're being as fair as you can. And now when you have the gift of being able to offer these incentives, hey, you told me the situation that's going on with the seller right now. Thank you for sharing that with me. How about if we offered to pay all the seller's closing costs? Do you think that would be something that they would feel good about?
Or give them some occupancy after closing, or help them with moving,
or like, you know how the house is a hoarder property? It's going to cost like 10 grand to trash that house out. Why don't you just tell the seller to take the things they want and leave the rest behind, and we'll handle the trash out for them.
Yeah. Or if they're needing to move at a certain time or close because of a foreclosure or something, now you're taking the information you get once that agent comes back to you, and you're crafting your incentives, right?
Correct.
So rather than throwing them all out there right out of the gate.
Yeah, and that's a mistake that new wholesalers will make doing agent outreach right out the gate. Is they'll say, oh, by the way, I pay all cash. Oh, by the way, you can leave everything behind. Also, I'll pay all the closing costs, and I'll pay you half of my assignment fee.
Right.
And now the agent's sitting there thinking,
what in the hell is going on here?
What is what in the mother of Christmas is going on?
Because you're offering stuff before you need to offer it.
Yes.
Right? It's just timing's off.
Right.
Yeah, that's really good. One thing, Jamil, that I'll do going back for a second to the sniper method is I want to have that similar conversation even on those ones. So what I'll say, somewhere in that conversation, typically at the end, is I'll say something like, hey, and just so you know, I realize that my offer might be quite a bit lower than where you're listed right now. The real reason why I'm calling you is because I'm more interested in creating an ongoing relationship with you, because I imagine you're going to run into more properties like this one. And what would be ideal is when you sit down with a seller and it's an investor type, cash only type deal like this one, is you give me a call and I can get you my number right out of the gate before so I'm back to that same conversation. And I'll say things like this, and I'll tell new wholesalers, you can say it like this with integrity. You can say, I plan on doing 12 to 15 deals this year in this market. So we're actively looking for deals. And my hope would be that we can work together ongoing as you come across properties that fit like this, right?
Correct.
So, and don't say I do 15 if you're working on your first deal,
Right.
but I hope all of you plan on doing 12 to 15 this year, right?
Yes.
Like, why are you here if you're not planning on doing
Future cast, right?
Yeah, future cast.
But don't misrepresent.
Don't misrepresent.
And
Yeah.
of course, we're all planning for the best. And so I think that's a very ethical. And actually, if you're not planning to do 15 deals in a year, then why are you doing this? Right? What's the
that
point?
might be way low, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, I'll even say things like, hey, I work with a group of investors in the market that are actively buying properties for all cash, and we're actively looking for opportunities. I'd love to work with you. I'd love to be your go-to person that when you run across a property like this, you call me and we're the solution for you. Like that, however you want to say that, like what you just did there, that's the most valuable thing you can do on any of these conversations is that future casting. It's letting that agent know that you are here for the long haul. You are here to help solve their problems. I'll say to every one of those sniper ones, I'll say, do you have anything else right now that you need help with an offer? Do you have any other properties that I can make you a cash offer?
Yep.
And I can't tell you, Jamil, how many times they're like, well, I got this
yeah.
problem property over here that's not selling.
It is always the back door, Jerry.
Or, man, I got this seller that I've been working with for a long time. We're not listed yet because I don't know what to do with it. You might be the solution. And they didn't know what to do.
And if you hadn't asked, you would have gotten off the phone without it ever having come up.
Yep.
And it's like, that's how important it is to always ask that follow-up question before you get off the phone.
You got anything else I can help you?
Anything else?
And what I want to do is I want to say that in a way that's adding value to them. Do you have any problem properties that aren't selling that I could take a look at for you? I'll get you an offer right away.
Absolutely.
And now what you're doing to them is you're saying, they're thinking, man, I got this problem. I got this property that's been such a problem. Maybe you're a solution for me. Like you're bringing solutions to people.
Yep.
And that's powerful.
It is. Now, when we're talking about solution-based business, there's that one, my favorite type of listed property, and it's the original condition, high day on market property. What's your approach there?
So grandma's house, high days on market. So
and we know that if it's high days on market, it's very likely overpriced.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so that would probably mean that it's overpriced because
for its condition.
Yeah, and let's be honest, in today's market, there's low inventory. If something's priced right, it's probably going to sell fairly quickly. So whenever you see high days on market, there's probably an automatic assumption that it's overpriced.
Correct.
Given the condition it's in.
Now, what do you say? How do you phrase it to an agent to let them know that it's something is overpriced? What are the words that you love to use?
That it's overpriced. I'm not sure.
Well,
what do you say?
I like to look at it in terms of the market being its own thing, and it's not me.
Okay.
It's not me saying this, and it's not you making the mistake. Yeah. The market has spoken. Yeah. Right. And so what I'll say is, hey, Jerry, I'm looking at this house you got on 123 Banana Street. The reason it caught my eye is because of the condition. You did a great job taking the pictures here. Mm-hmm. It gave me a really good idea that this needs a full remodel, right? Yeah. It's original condition. It's got, a lot of deferred maintenance. So then I went and looked at the numbers, and, it seems to me like the market's rejected the price.
Yeah. Make it about the comps, not about you.
The market has rejected the price. I'm not rejecting the price. Mm-hmm. The market has rejected the price.
And what it does is you're not directly attacking the agent's credibility
or the
seller. You're making the market the bad guy, not the seller or the agent. I love that. That's really powerful.
The market rejected the price.
And will you actually show comps to justify that?
If they ask, right? Yeah. If they ask, normally they understand. Very, very rarely is an agent so oblivious that I have to send them comps and make justifications. Yeah. For the most part, they know what's going on. They know that they're overpriced, and they probably have some fault in that, right? And let's be honest, when you think about how a house even gets like that, where it's overpriced and it's sitting on the market 110 days, one of two things happened. You either had a real estate agent flat out lie to a seller. Overcommitted on what they could get the seller, and it's just not possible.
Which you have to understand, that's a listing tactic. Hey, I can get you X, and the seller's going, holy crap, you can get me that number?
Right.
Okay.
And they get excited, and they sign the listing agreement, and now the agent's like, oh, what am I going to do? Yeah. Right? And so that's one of the things.
And they're going to look stupid if they have to bring your cash offer, which is half a list price.
because they misrepresented where the house was going to trade. right?
Yeah.
And so that's one scenario that happens. Another scenario that happens is you got an agent who may have communicated to their seller that they thought the house needed to trade at this price for its condition, and you have a stubborn seller who's like, nope, I need Jim down the road sold for 500 grand. I want 500 grand and not a penny less.
Yeah.
Well, Jim did a $90,000 remodel last summer, and
he's a 4-bedroom, not a 2-bedroom.
yes, and you've got mud in your pool.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. You and Jim's house are not the same, but so that's the difference,
Yeah.
right? And so you've got an agent who's misrepresented, and you've got a stubborn seller, and both are actually powerful, and you can bring both of them into your fold. When you've got the agent who might have misrepresented or might have overcommitted or overpromised, their biggest fear is how that conversation is going to go. They know they're going to need to have the conversation or they're going to lose the listing.
About a price reduction.
Reduction. They know that, within 6 months, once the 6-month listing is over, they're not going to get renewed. The seller is going to say, you promised me 500 grand for my house and we didn't get a single offer close to 500 grand. What the heck?
Yeah. You suck, I'm out.
You suck,
yeah.
I'm out. You lied,
Yeah.
right? So that agent knows that's going to happen, and they're fearful of it. That's why sometimes when you call an agent and you give them your number right out the gate, it's like a lower number, and they're mad at you, and they say, that's a low ball. My seller would never. What they're really angry about is not that you're insulting their seller. They're angry because they're not going to share that with their seller because they don't want to damage the relationship.
They'll have egg on their face.
They have egg on their face.
Yeah.
That's what's really going on. So what you need to do is you need to learn how to arm the seller with the story. You've got to give the seller what the words are to say to, or the agent
to the seller.
You've got to give to the agent what the words are that they're going to need to tell the seller. And I love arming them with the narrative, right? Okay, so I'll say, Jerry, this house has been sitting for 120 days. I know that you guys did your best. You did a phenomenal job on these photos, but the market's doing what it's doing right now, and it's rejected the price. Now, unfortunately, recently there have been even more sales that have lowered the potential value for this anyways, right? And so one of two things are going to happen. Your seller is either going to have to just take this off the market and rent it, and that might be the solution for you guys, right? And so I'm not going to say that that's off the table, but I think now's the time where they make the choice, right? Because it's either going to be this or the listing expires and
nobody gets anything.
You don't get anything, I don't get anything, and the seller doesn't get anything because they didn't sell. What if we come to the table with 100% of as-is value? When I say as-is value, I mean for the property in its current condition. Right? I pay you as much as I can pay you for the property in its current condition. Do you think that you'd be willing to have that conversation with the seller today? And that's it.
Yeah.
Right? Now they're like, okay, what is it? Hit me with it, right? Because it's the moment of truth.
Yeah.
They know today's the day I'm going to have to eat my medicine. Today's the day I've got to have the conversation. I got to break up with my girlfriend. I got to do the thing. I got to eat the frog. Today's the day I eat the frog. But that's freeing. And at some level, that agent, that listing has been weighing on their shoulders for months because they know that there was a misrepresentation or they know that their seller has an unrealistic expectation. Whatever that is, they're dreading the conversation and they don't know the words. They don't have the words to say it themselves. So you have to arm them with them.
Yeah. Do you take it a step further? Because I'll do that. I'll take it a step further and arm that agent with comps to sit down with their seller.
Always.
Okay.
And as recent as possible that absolve the agent from any wrongdoing or any misrepresentation or anything. I'll say, look, here in the last 30 days, these sales have caused us a tremendous amount of
These are recent.
These are super recent. These were before we signed our listing agreement. This is before you and I had decided what we thought we were going to try to sell the house for. Unfortunately, with 7.5% interest rates, an election, and all the things that are going on right now, I think this is as good as it's going to get.
I had a conversation, Jamil, recently. It's actually, I recorded this, where we got down to it, and I needed to be, under where it was listed. And this was a super reasonable agent, very logical agent. So I said my number, and he says to me, he's like, Jerry, how am I going to go back and sell that number to my seller? Like, he's in the same, we're in alignment, right? Like, we built the rapport, we're in alignment. And I said, well, are you in front of your computer? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, let's look. I mean, I got some, and we just started going and we're looking, and he's like helping me. He's like, okay, that's a good one. Let me save this link to this one. That's a good one. I'm going to show the seller this one. That one's not really representative because, it's brick and ours isn't. He's like helping me comp.
Right.
And we're sitting there, and for 20 minutes, we got 3 or 4 comps. He's like, okay, I got it. I got your number. I got my comps. And so he's now going to go back and sit down with that seller, have that hard conversation of like, hey, we're up here, but look, here's an offer. It's cash, and here's some comps that show like this is why this is a fair offer.
Right. And last thing, an agent, especially when they're coming to a seller with a number that's not what they expected or wanted, maybe the way to play this, Jerry, would be, what if you lowered your commission? And I know right out the gate this is going to sound like no, because you've worked hard, and I know you have, but what if you lowered your commission and I pay you on the back end of the deal? Let's get the seller the most that they can have right now. Your commission right now is 3%. Drop it to 1.5%. Let's get the deal done with them, and then I'll true you up on the other side.
Perfect. Because you can build room in, right? For
100%.
that? Yeah. And the seller's feeling, and more than just the money side of that, what I found with that is when an agent goes to the seller and says, hey, I think this is where we need to be. This is a good offer. I'm going to waive the seller feels like, okay, this agent is upset as I am that I'm not getting the number I am. He's doing his damnedest to get this done.
And he's not getting the number he wanted either.
He's not making as much money now. Okay, at least it opens up the seller's mind to consider it and look at it.
Correct.
Because now they feel like the agent's giving something to them.
And they need to feel that. And the agent wants to offer it.
Yeah.
But they don't want it to come out of their pocket.
But here's the biggest takeaway.
They want it to come out of yours.
Here's the biggest takeaway, Jamil, with all of this. And this is a long video, but really powerful. This is really good, guys. Is you have to coach that agent on how to do this. Like, this is outside the box for them. This isn't traditional real estate. And all these things, like Jamil's giving these like dialogues and things, you have to help that agent understand how to go back to the seller, why we do what we do, why we're at the price we're at. Like, I call it coaching agents all the time. Like, you're coaching the agent on how to do this business.
Yep.
And if you get good at that, then you'll have that agent align with you. You'll be on the same page. And that's only when they're going to go back to the seller and get that seller on board. If that agent is not aligned with you, they're going to bring the wrong energy. They're not going to say it the right way. They may not even go do it.
Right.
Most
likely they won't do it.
They won't even do it.
Yeah.
Because they're just not seeing eye to eye with like why we're where we're at.
They see more risk for doing it than they see a benefit, right? And that's, all of you guys that are just sending blind offers to agents, I'm going to give you an analogy right now, okay? And I'm going to keep it clean.
Which I don't do that.
Because we never should, right?
Yeah.
But I know that there's people on this platform, YouTube, that train you to do that, and here's why it's not a good idea. Have you ever done online dating, especially if you're a female? What happens when a guy just sends you a picture of his abs, or even worse, before he's even introduced himself or said hello, right? That's what sending a blind low offer is like to a real estate agent. It's rude. Yeah. It's not warranted, and it's not appreciated.
It's offensive.
Yeah. Right? So doing that, and here's the worst part. Some of you are going to be like, yeah, but sometimes they are.
If I do it 1,000 times.
Yeah, but what's the quality of that person?
Yeah.
If I'm just on my online dating site and I'm sending pictures of my abs or worse to somebody, and then they respond to that, what kind of person is that? Is that somebody I'm going to take home to mom?
Yeah.
Right? Is that an agent that you're going to build a long-lasting relationship with? That's going to do a lot of business.
If anything, it's a one and done. It's a pie in the sky. It's a like
it was
a
one-off.
It's a one-off, not a relationship. And again, the whole point of this is not one-off. If you're going to one-off, go off market.
Yeah.
Right. This is about the relationship to create a sustainable, ongoing business. That's the only reason why we do on market.
That's it. You guys saw how powerful this was, but it's not always roses, is it, Jerry?
No.
I think in the next video, we're going to get into some traps.
There's some traps, challenges, obstacles, objections. What other words can we describe?
Well, I like calling them the agent traps.
Agent traps. Ooh. I love that. Yeah. And these are significant. Like if you fall into one of these holes.
Yeah.
And again, not all of it is you can overcome. I mean, there are just some agents that are it just ain't going to work with this agent, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to break that down for sure. It might be the next video. And guys, really appreciate this time. Jamil, thank you for all your wisdom and expertise.
So
Man, This is really, really good. Guys, we do have something really cool that we're putting together. There's going to be a link in the description. And this link is going to be where you can actually come and spend I think we're going to do a full day with Jamil and I live in person with us on the phones, talking to agents, pulling up deals, making offers. It's going to be really fun, really powerful. We're going to keep it really small. It's going to be a small group type of thing. So you get lots of attention. You're literally going to have Jamil whispering in your ear what to say. What's so powerful about a day like that?
Well, I think
how's that transformational?
If you've ever had, the idea that I want to do this, but you've got some fear, right? In my world, here's one of the things. You ever start a new job? I mean, you've been self-employed for a long time, but you remember back in the day when you started a new job? And you know how and for any of you watching this, you'll probably resonate. You start a new job, you get into, you get into the place. Maybe they send you some videos to watch before you start your first day, or they give you a manual to
training
read,
book
and all that. And you read the manual and you watch the things, but you're like, I still have no idea what I'm supposed to do when I get to work on Monday, right? You understand that? That's happened to me. It's probably happened to you watching this. So how did you learn how to do the job? Well, what ended up happening was you got there on the Monday morning, and then they plopped you down beside somebody, and you watched them.
Shadow that guy.
You shadowed that person. You watched them do the job. And then you're like, oh, I get it. And then you put your flavor on it, and then it became how you did the job.
You're like, oh, that college degree, I didn't even need it.
Right. But here's the fun thing, right? Is that, you could do this shadowing with students of the game. But what if you did this kind of shadowing with masters of the game? See, what we're going to do in this day with you is we're going to implant all of the wisdom, all of the strategies, the years. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years. You've been doing this for over 20 years. So combined, we're talking over 40 years of experience talking to real estate agents doing this business. We've had every conversation. We've had every objection. We've overcome them all. I have over 7,000 wholesale deals under my belt. Jerry's got thousands of wholesale deals under his belt. Hundreds of homes flipped. We know how to whisper to agents. We'll actually have you leaving this an agent whisperer yourself as well.
Ooh, I like that, agent whisperer.
My man.
That's great. So guys, that link there, if you go to that, depending on when you watch this video, if there's not a spot open, maybe we'll create like a waiting list. It's going to fill up quick because we're going to keep it small groups. So if that's the case, don't get mad and leave a bunch of angry comments like,
don't do that.
You jerks, it was closed when I got there. We'll do what we can with it. Jamil's super busy and I'm super busy, but we'd like to create this opportunity. Maybe if it goes well, we'll do it again or whatever. But if it's closed, just check back or leave a comment and let us know, hey, I'd love to do that if it opens up again, or maybe we'll create a waiting list. But check that link out if you really want to do this at a high level. This would be for someone that's like, and it's not going to be free, by the way, either. This isn't a free thing, because this is going to take a big time commitment from you and I.
Yeah, and then we're looking for the kind of person that's, you understand wholesale at a good level, and you've probably done some business already, and like you're looking to find a way to scale this, right? Like you're now saying to yourself, I get the game, I know what I'm doing, but I want to do this at a high level. I want to actually turn this into a consistent business for myself. That's the candidate for this, not somebody who's kind of like, I just found out about what wholesale was yesterday and I'm here. No, it's like, this has got to be somebody who I think is invested in the game. So if you're invested in the game and you understand this at a decent level, that you would be the right
ideal.
candidate.
You'll get the most out of it for sure. Because we're going to do tweaks that are going to completely transform your outcomes. Right. So it's very, very powerful, in person, live, together. And it's not just theory. None of this, that day is not, none of it's theory.
No.
Deals.
Deals. We're going.
It's on the phones and it's doing deals. So check that out, guys. And again, we created a playlist where we're going to be putting all of these videos. So watch these in order. I think would be very powerful. Go through all of them and watch them, and then I would pick out the ones that you really need more help on or want to learn more about. Also, leave comments. If anything we're talking about in these videos, if something was confusing or you weren't sure or unclear, leave a comment. We'll try to watch those carefully and answer those. Maybe we'll even do some follow-ups where we could dive deeper into certain things if we see common questions, But we're going to try to hit all of it in this series. We're going to try to hit every angle there is about this business and break that down for you. So again, thank you, Jamil. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you on the next video.
Later.